Hello, this is Gregory J. Smalley on Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast, joined by Giles Edwards.
Hello.
There he is. And later today, we're going to have a guest at Tremblay to talk about his new book, which is not a movie because it's a book, and it's not about movies that exist in our reality, but it is weird. And so we are looking forward to that. First off, up top, how are you, Giles?
I'm doing well, thank you. Catching up on some projects I'd been putting off for the 3 weeks I was at Fantasia, and so pretty close back to normal at this point.
What projects would those be? Or anything of interest?
A number of sound projects with some anarcho-leftist musicians from Canada, actually, and then there's a young woman who I've done some voice work with also from Canada. We're going to be doing some spooky story readings. And of course, the house doesn't keep itself maintained as much as I might prefer. So, oh yes, and picking a lot of apples because my father planted a trio of intertwined trees at the edge of the yard that I've been slowly removing things from in the form of apples. So, yeah.
In the form of apples, yes. Okay. All right. So in 366 news, I guess I have a couple of small announcements. Just a reminder that the 366 Weird Movies book will be coming out in 2024. I am working on image clearances for 3 months. I'll be doing that and just a little bit of final formatting. In the course of obtaining images, I might be able to get some guests for the pod, since I talked anyway about their images. And so I don't want to super tease anything, but we do have somebody tentatively scheduled for 2 weeks from now. I'm not going to announce who it is. It's a big name for us. It's not Steven Spielberg or anything, but by our standards, it's a really big name. And the only thing I will tease is that he does have a canonically weird movie on our list of 366 weird movies. And it will be screening in Los Angeles, a rare screening in Los Angeles in September. So anybody who cares to do a ton of research can probably find out who I'm talking about, but we'll be excited to talk to him when he's out. And so now, before we meet with Pat Tremblay, I hope I'm not massacring the pronunciation of his name, let's talk about one new release and I believe 3 Blu-ray releases, UHD releases that we have to talk about. And so here comes the first image coming in hot. There it is.
Ta-da.
You see it, Giles?
I see it.
Okay. I don't see myself. I can see you.
Okay, well that, yes, it's a rear shot, medium close-up, young person on a bed with a horse's tail coming out of them.
Completely nude. And it is a woman. This is, you know the name of this?
Mrs. Piaffe, which I actually had a chance to see
the movie
at Fantasia, but opted not to for one reason or another. One of them being, gosh, I thought I'd already seen this. I don't know, at Slam Dance a couple years ago, and I kind of had.
I know why you kind of had, because it was a short before it was a feature, right?
Yep.
Ah, so you saw the short version of this.
Yep, called Passage.
Yeah. And in the short version, it was a male, correct?
Yeah, an androgynous male. All
Well,
right, well, yeah, a they, them. Yeah. Anyway, but yes, a more masculine form.
oh,
And yeah, seems it from everything I heard, Piaffe was quite good and the exact same sort of chain of events as the original short.
except it's feature length.
Feature length and highly recommended by one of my colleagues. I'll give him a shout out, Neil Calderon from Chicago, who works with various film festivals and is also an avid collector of 35 millimeter prints.
Okay, well, since you've seen at least the short and I assume the trailer for this feature, uh, maybe you can describe the plot a little bit better than I could.
Sure. There, well, with the short anyway, there's the individual, a Foley artist, is attempting to recreate a horse hoof sound for a commercial. And in so doing and getting more elaborate and more into the process, there is a transmogrification that occurs to the Foley artist in question. And looking at the summary on the Piaffe website, piaffe.oscilloscope.net, the story in the feature looks like it is the same.
Yeah.
Shot on lush 16 millimeter, which can mean one thing or another depending upon how that's processed after the fact.
No, and as a matter of fact, this exact shot was in the short with a different actor.
Yes.
And I prefer it as a woman. It's much more attractive composition.
Well, quite. It's as they say, it takes all sorts to make a world. And let's see. Oh, yeah, screening coming up in mid-September in Los Angeles. So,
All right. So, short takeaway, it's a movie about a woman who turns into a horse, or at the very least grows a horse tail. Okay? From the trailer, it doesn't appear that she turns fully into a horse, at least not in the clips they selected.
yeah, and the short, it was tail and arm and leg ends got hoofed.
Ooh, well then, there's more to it. So I think that is a cool looking little movie. Definitely more art house in its tone, ambiance, and direction. I think that you should probably check it out. But we'll move on to a re-release that has been re-released many times. Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, that Tim Burton had little to do with, other than sort of inspiring, I guess, the look. It's really Harry Selick's baby that Tim Burton was able to slap his name on because he was producer and, of course, had that big in with Disney. Giles, are you a fan of The Nightmare Before Christmas, which everybody knows?
Yes, I am a fan. It is a visually delightful film. It inspired, or at least encouraged, a whole lot of subculture that I approve of. I remember the explosion of products in such classic stores is Hot Topic when this had, come out and had become a mainstay of a certain generation's counterculture in fusion with mainstream culture. So I guess a kind of what's that word? Synthesis of the two coming together, which I thought was rather nice. It moves along at a great clip, fantastic songs, wonderful villain in the form of the boogeyman. And yeah, I really don't have anything bad to say about it, but And you did remind me when you said that it's been re-released a lot. This is true, but there was a stretch for 3 to 5 years after the first DVD was released, when all DVDs came out in like 97, 98, when that became really common technology. And then for a while there weren't. So there was a point where the original DVD release of Nightmare Before Christmas was the only good way to get your this movie in quality, and it was fetching upwards of $250 used. So they have since, shall we say, remedied that ad nauseum. So here it is again, looking no doubt nicer than ever in 4K.
Right. Yep. And if you go to the Amazon page to buy it, you will see really 10 different editions of released that you can buy, all having basically the same special features. And as far as I can tell through my limited research, this offers nothing new other than the new transfer to 4K UHD.
Yes.
For collectors, I'm a little surprised it took them so long to get around to this one, except that this is probably timed for a good Halloween release.
Hey, oh yeah.
And so people will likely, who have UHD, there's likely a lot of people who are going to be interested in picking that up. Our next movie, however, is a little more rare and a little more specialized.
just a little bit.
Just a little. It is The Rape of the Vampire, a new 4K HDR restoration of erotic horror auteur Jean Rollin's surreal 1968 feature debut, which is very much an outlier in his canon. If you know Jean Rollin, and you definitely should, especially if you're listening to this podcast, you know he made a lot of sexy movies about vampires. And this is one, sort of, because among the many differences in this one is it's shot in black and white, which none of his other features are very, very colorful and very noted for his use of color, his very vivid use of color. This is in black and white. It's even lower budget than his other movies, and it is his most surreal movie, to the point where it is almost incoherent at times. And part of the story behind it is that he shot about a 30-minute short film, Rape of the Vampire, and decided to expand it to feature length. And so at the end of the short for the feature, he just brought all the dead characters back to life for another hour's worth of material.
Of course.
Giles,
Thinking on your feet.
Did you see Rape of the Vampire?
I have seen, I've possibly seen no Rollins films, except for the documentary about him, which was 2 Fantasias ago. So certainly high on my list to investigate, but
as I say,
woefully ignorant.
This is very different than his other movies, much more surreal. His other movies, always had little weird bits in them, but had the sort of narrative that you expect from a horror film. This one does not. It has a good scene. The sets are interesting, if cheap, and they have something like a giant bat idol with like about 6 breasts, I think, on it, and another scene where a female skewers a bat on a rapier, which is very memorable and nice. It's full of memorable images, and here it is in another lavish set from Indicator. And speaking of Jean Rollins that you haven't seen, here is a more typical Jean Rollin movie, The Night of the Hunted, not Night of the Hunter. This is a 1980 sci-fi thriller. And as you can see, there is a nearly nude woman on the cover. She's actually in a see-through negligee there. In the movie, she is fully nude. That's fully nude a lot of the time. That's LaHaye as one of the hunted. And the story here is not a vampire story. It is, as they say, a sci-fi thriller. It's about women, especially two women who have a very, very short-term memory loss where they can only remember things that happened about a minute or two in the past, which creates a sort of Memento-like storyline. It goes forward in time rather than backward in time. Of course, long before Memento. Don't know if it was actually something that Christopher Nolan saw. Wouldn't be surprised if it was something that he saw and helped inspire Memento. Again, lots of nudity. There's a shot in this movie that really just affected me. I've always remembered it, of a red-haired woman who falls to the ground. I believe she's killed, and just has long red hair, and she falls next to a sewer in Paris, and her hair falls down the sewer like it was water or blood flowing into the sewer.
Oh,
just a beautiful shot. And that's the thing with Rollin. He has all his movies have long stretches where very little happens. And then there will just be one or two or three or four shots in it that are just gorgeous. And you think, wow, man, if this guy could ever have put it all together, he would have made a masterpiece. I think you could make a true masterpiece out of his movies by taking the best parts of 10 or 12 movies and just inserting them. And you know what, it wouldn't make all that much different to the story, because he was never that much interested in telling a story more in the European style of just creating great atmospheres.
Yeah, I think a lot of that, from my recollection of the documentary I saw, was if he had the money to pursue what he wanted to do, as opposed to what it looks like, looking at his IMDb page here, 52 films, and at least half of them are quite obviously X-rated, judging from the title and the sobriquet he directed under. So yeah, I think there are out there a couple of movies that he actually gets to do what he wants, and shall we say, more consistently have the dreamy vision that he was able to slide into schlockier affairs.
Yeah, he directed a lot of porn to pay the bills, and but of course, most of his horror work, although very artistically shot, was full of naked women.
Oh yeah.
But he shoots them very artistically. They are like they're not sleazy, they're like Playboy usually, and very artistically arranged and so forth.
Yeah, painterly eye.
Yes, exactly. So people should definitely check out Jean Rollin. I don't know if those are two Jean Rollins that I would start with. Probably start with more of the vampire movies. Like when we did several episodes ago, we did basically a Jean Rollin episode with Terry McSorlin and Eric Kirsten on, and the one they recommended people start with is Shiver of the Vampires. So that may be a good bet.
Okay, his third feature, and I believe the documentary I saw talked a lot about the Iron Rose.
The Iron Rose, not a vampire movie.
No, but
yeah, it's probably a good, decent starter movie. I would say Shiver of the Vampires. They were right. I like the nude vampire personally. His second film that, and of course it's a great title, The Nude Vampire. It's pretty wacky.
Yeah, I'm surprised considering his first four features here. There's Rape of the Vampire, Nude Vampire, Shiver of the Vampires, and Requiem for a Vampire. I mean, that sounds like a box set.
Yeah. That's what he became famous for. Requiem for a Vampire is also probably a good starter. It's it's got a strange. The opening is like 20 or 30 minutes with no dialogue and two women dressed as clowns. And then after that, it turned into just a gory exploitation fest. So you get you get
You get it all.
You get both the art house, the weird art house, and the crazy exploitation element. That one may be one that's a good starter for a lot of people. But yeah, so that's a little revisiting Rollin. And Giles, I think we're going to stop here and come back with our guest, Pat Tremblay, in what for you will be no time at all, what for us will be some time passing. So we're going to say goodbye for now and see you soon.
See you, everybody.
And we're back with Pat Tremblay. And Tremblay, yes, to talk about I asked him how to pronounce it, and then I immediately messed it up. And then we're here to talk about his book, which also has a funny pronunciation. It's Terror in the AIlien Realms, spelled AIlien. And Giles actually has a copy there, so you can see it. We have another better copy. How are you, Pat?
I'm fine. How about you?
Well, and so let me get up some stills. We're not going to discuss all of these, but we do have a large amount of graphics from the book, just there in a gallery view. So before we start, I guess, why don't you just explain what this project is?
Well, I first started looking into AI imagery about a year ago. I saw that the technology was trying to do some interesting things with it, and it was not really amazing at the time, but still very promising. And I started to just try out the tool, especially Mid-Journey, and also a little bit of Stable Diffusion eventually. And I realized that at the time that it was pretty rough, and I said, well, what can I do with this? Try to push the extreme of it to see what I can do with it. And I thought of horror movies, obviously, and since the visuals were not that tough, that great. I mean, I was thinking, well, maybe I should try to do things like Ghana movie posters, because they're usually pretty, rough in the way they're being drawn, and that sort of gave me interesting results. But then the technology became even better throughout the various versions rapidly. And I said, well, I can start designing actual posters with this and experiment where I can go with the tool. And eventually I was wondering, well, what can I do with those posters? I could just post them and that would be it. But I thought, well, what if I could get people to write imaginary reviews of these fake posters to get inspired by them and see what comes out of it. So I also thought about doing it myself, but I thought it'd be more interesting to have lots of different visions and opinions of about these pieces of artwork. So I contacted my friends. I know obviously a bunch of directors and such, but I had a lot of help from Mitch Davis, Kareem Hussein, Ted Geoghegan, Dave Alexander, who gave me a lot of help also, and Mike Gingold, who just put out the word out there if people were interested in just contributing to this book and give me their wildest take on the imagery. And I was giving them carte blanche as well, so that they could just go anywhere they wanted, no editing, no anything, you know. So that's how I came up with the book, with 50 people who actually joined the madness of it all. And what you get is everything from very humoristic stuff to very bizarre and strange and mysterious and poetic. It's a big mishmash of so many kinds of weird things that it's a very fun book for that reason. And it can be consumed really in a fun way, because it's not linear in the sense that you can just read one here, one there. So it's a nice coffee table book for that matter, you know.
Yeah, that's great. And so actually, before, I probably should have mentioned that you are or were or still are a film director who did Atmos Horror X, which we saw, and some other movies. But lately you have been focusing more on doing artwork.
Yeah, well, you know, making indie movies is always hard, finding the money or the time or whatever, you know. So, and during the pandemic, nothing was really happening either. So it's almost, I don't know if it's a byproduct of that or not exactly. I think it just was because it was something new that I was curious about, and I said, okay, maybe I should focus on this. But I still have plenty of scripts I want to do actually, and that are already written and all, and many other projects. But this was, you know, a way to be more immediate at producing things and be satisfied more rapidly than having to wait for a whole year to make a movie and all that stuff. But you know, if I can continue doing this, I will, because I really enjoy doing this. And I've got plenty more where that came from, actually.
Oh yeah, this is the kind of idea that you come up with that you know, I think of, oh man, why didn't I think of that, or why didn't somebody else think of that before? Because the AI stuff, you know, is just a really brief window where this has been popular, and it's just an idea. I thought, gosh, why didn't somebody come up with that first? What I've got up here is a list of contributors. I was just going to go over some of the more notable names that people might recognize. Rodney Ascher, who directs documentaries, and the most famously, I think, the Shining documentary, Room, what is it, Room 203, yeah. Jay Baruchel, who's actually had quite a big acting career doing voiceovers, at least in How to Tame Your Dragon. Who else is on this list? Jorg Butgereit,
yes,
director of Necromantic, is on here.
And Der Tortoise King. Let's not forget his more serious outing.
Mitch Davis, you already mentioned, but let's see, who else is on here? Michael Gingold, you mentioned.
Aaron Moorhead.
We have Moorhead, and is Benson on as well? Yes, Moorhead and Benson both on
and
there.
David Lawson Jr. too.
Vincenzo Natali,
yes.
Joel Petrikis, who we've interviewed before, Jennifer Reeder, another director. So a lot of, you know, relatively big names in the field of horror that you were able to bring on. So just that's really cool. Let me ask you, what program did you use to make these?
Well, I started mainly with Midjourney because they evolved much faster in terms of quality, and it's a bit annoying to work in the Discord system, but I ended up creating my own technique to make it faster and all that stuff. So that was pretty useful. I also tried Stable Diffusion to do some more, because the important thing to know is that Midjourney is kind of censored in ways. It was banning certain words and all that stuff, so it was a little bit hard to go around and trying to do crazy stuff, although I did some crazier stuff. But with Stable Diffusion, the version that I had gotten was not censored, so you could go different ways. But ultimately in the book, there's not much craziness. I just kept that for myself, I suppose. And so what was your question again?
Oh, just the what program you used, and
okay. So I did. Yeah,
Okay.
okay. I'm just going to finish on this. So I used Midjourney, but the thing is, there were a lot, and still are to an extent, but it's getting better every day. Almost artifacts that are weird, like having too much fingers, extra heads, limbs, and whatever weird things that happen. So I use Photoshop to correct these things with my Wacom pad as well, and also to do the layout in different ways because you would not necessarily always have letters and titles and text in the right way. So I would just rearrange, take some from other iterations and all that stuff, and hence the colors and all that and all these little details to make it more. To make them better because there's not a lot of them that has barely any one of them that have not been retouched in various kind of ways.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. So they didn't come because that's like another question. To what degree do you think that AI can be used for art? And since you've taken these and kind of touched them up, that shows, it's just a tool and sort of a starting place for you, right?
Yes, it is definitely a tool, but it does a lot of the work regardless. I cannot deny that for sure. But it's the process. It's still an artistic process. It's because it starts with words. Obviously, it's text to image. So you got to figure out the words that you're using. Sometimes a comma can even do a difference. And you just experiment throughout whenever start a poster, an idea, it comes with an original idea in mind, and then it never really gives that exactly the first try. So you reiterate, change words, change parameters, quality features, and different kind of things, and you go down those rabbit holes. And eventually, you can even be surprised by getting something you never thought of. So, and then you start exploring that way, and then that rabbit hole and keep going on like this. And then it's also a question of knowing when to stop because it's almost, infinite. And every time you click on your idea, it never gives you the same result. So even if I would give you my prompt today, you would put it in and it would give you something completely different as well because it sort of evolves at the same time. So it's also an experiment in time, I should say. And it all depends on your taste and your knowledge of art, for instance, and because you can also feed it imagery so it get influenced by stuff, that different stuff. So instead of just putting posters, I was also putting different kind of images that even I had made myself, just to see where that could go and mix them up with other things. So it's the artistic process is also not only in the way you write, but in the imagery you choose and where you make that thing go and remix it along the way. So that's kind of the creative aspect. So the drawing is done by the computer, the AI itself, but you can do it. All depends on where you make it happen. So that's the really fun part of exploring with the tool.
Yeah, and I'd say you are, with this project, are one of the very few people who are actually using AI to produce a new kind of art. And I also think, like I said, it's a very small window because right now, this AI is imperfect and it's doing these weird things. And I'm afraid that as it gets better, it's going to become less interesting, Do you agree with that?
Well, I kind of say that now great is the new meh because things can be more amazing because a lot of people are doing this and you start to realize that a lot of people are able to do, standard classic stuff and that eventually just becomes boring by default because there's too much of it. Like anything, there's saturation when you see something that's, a sort of trend. So the most interesting thing is to explore and go in different ways with the tool. And that's what I would have like 3 lifetimes just wanting to do this with this tool as it is right now, because there's so many things I want to explore other than horror. So it's a question of time basically, but it will go to so many different ways in the future. This is just the beginning, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, I agree. I'm fascinated with AI and with the very few people who have put some, some people have made short films that are very bizarre, and we featured a few of them. And it's kind of like at the beginning of silent film because the tools are imperfect, and but it's making people, I think, be more creative to realize their visions than they would be with something that was better at capturing reality. And we're getting some very surreal sort of visions out of AI at the moment. So you came up with 50 posters. How many do you think you did and discarded to get the best 50?
Well, to begin, for this whole project, I made probably over 10,000 images, and I chose my favorite throughout those, and sometimes I get like maybe 5, 10 iterations of one particular poster, and then I choose elements from each that I like, and then blend them back together, make one single poster. Because sometimes the character is more interesting there, or a face or something. So I ended up finalizing 100 posters, so that when I would give them to the people who would join the project, the last person would still have a choice between 50 posters, So meaning that I now still have another 50 poster plus at least 35 that additional ones that I've completed since then. And I've probably got at least 100 more I could work on and do another batch if there's interest in making another book, which I'd really like to do.
Oh yeah, Terror in the Alien Realms 2 is coming out. It's
I have to put the brakes on this right now because is trying to carve your way into social media is really hard in my case, and because I don't have tons of followers to begin with. I came late into the game of going on Facebook and Instagram, and as a result, I'm so far down people's feeds that it's really awful. And but I also decided to pay for boosting a post on my AIlien Realms Facebook page. And because it's a company, I understand that they need money to run their things, so that's why we have to pay to get more visibility. But I realized that I really got fucked over because Facebook boost post is a scam. Because I don't know if you know this, but you can target. You can target the people that you want. So I only selected horror people, horror categories and all that stuff, and they were promising like hundreds and a few hundreds of likes and followers and all that stuff for my ad. So I said, okay, fine, let's do this. And then the likes kept coming in, and the followers coming in as well, but no sales as a result. So and no other likes on other posts. So I was confused. I started to say, well, let me check all those likes and followers, and I checked about 150 of them at the first 150, only to realize that 90% of those actual accounts are complete bullshit, just fake profiles with random peoples with random posts about whatever, with no likes on anything and nothing related to horror. 90% of them, because we know what horror people post, and what kind of profile they have, and maybe 10%, of those people were actually valid. So it's a whole scam that Facebook is pulling on people, and I think just simply because people don't take the time to look at all these the likes that they get or whatever, and they're not specifically targeted to niche things like horror that you can actually know if those people are real. So anyways, that's just my rant to destroy Facebook the most I can because I got ripped off by this. So my whole point is to say that I wish there would be another book, but it depends on how this one will work from word to mouth, basically, because Instagram is even worse. I just noticed yesterday that all my hashtags that I put in my posts, even right after, are not listed in my posts are simply not listed in those. So And, it's really hard to make promo. So thank you also for having me on your podcast and your great website, because that's the cool way and the real way of doing it word of mouth like this.
Oh yeah, we'll help you as best we can. I think that the best way for people to get the book is to because it's the easiest, I think, is to go to pattremblay.com, PATTREMBLAY.com. Do you think that's the best way for people to order?
Yeah, it's in the store section, but if you type AIlienRealms.com with the AI, obviously at the beginning, it goes directly to my to that page as well.
Okay, so we'll put both those links up and everything we can to help get word out. And I haven't let Giles say a word. So Giles, why don't you?
Oh no, don't worry about me. Oh, yeah. So as you saw, I got my copy. I went to the book launch event, which was pretty crowded with some excited people. Of course, I couldn't guess how many of those were contributors versus, shall we say, civilians like myself. I know you got helped and probably did a lot of word of mouth, but can you speak quickly but also broadly about how you chose the contributors for this?
Well, I started with the people I know, which were friends and acquaintances I had throughout the years of mainly going to Fantasia, because I'm a Montrealer, so I've met people there. But after that, it was just a discussion with the festival programmer Mitch, which is a longtime friend of mine, and Kareem Hussein, who's also an old friend, and Ted Geeking that I knew and who has also worked with Fantasia. And then through this, I met Dave Alexander. So they suggested me people, and I said, okay, that's good. And it was pretty much a group effort in finding those names put off. So I really have to give them credits for this. And obviously, I didn't have to refuse a lot of people, because I mean, all of what my friends, all of the people my friends know are really cool people to begin with, So it was shockingly done quite rapidly, because I had already the idea of releasing it during Fantasia. So there was a sort of a really tight deadline regardless. And I managed to do it with people. Everybody was very easy to work with. Some little things that, go a lot of back and forth with people, but nothing serious. Everybody enjoyed doing the thing. It was really good. And I am. But I did get a little bit of an issue with the shipping of the book and all that stuff.
Yeah,
but
that seems to be the
yeah, but something that I was not, but I did had predicted that something could happen, so I had ordered 100 copies, in an expressway, so it would not be caught without any books at the launch. But something happened for the rest, which was a strike, not an Hollywood strike, but a Vancouver port strike, where the books were coming in.
Oh God, yeah, I remember you mentioning. Yeah.
So that was like a 2.5 weeks of wasted time, and which I could have, sold more at Fantasia as well, having a table. I got them like 3 days before the end of the festival, and I only had 2 days that I could put up books there, and actually sold a bunch there. So it's like, damn, I could have had more exposure if for that. But yeah.
Yeah, because I also asked, because as you say, it's the kind of thing you can sort of sit and just sort of open it and read a review, see its poster, and poke around. I haven't read them all, but I was curious: were there any like hatchet jobs? Did any of these reviewers really hate the movie that they had to write about for this project?
What do you mean by hate?
Well, it's like like the premise being, okay, so we have a movie poster. They're writing a review of the movie that the poster is for. Were there any contributors who really just hated the theoretical movie that they were talking about?
Oh yeah, of course. There's a bunch of those actually that are telling that the imagery is just not exposing anything that the movie's about, and they tell all about their faults, and also how those movies were made in weird conditions and how they turned out. So there's a lot of also false advertising in a way, and it's really fun because they play with the concept that these movies are because I also mentioned this. I also mentioned that in my pitch that they were really free to go bonkers on that regard as well, uh, because I was, in the past myself as a kid, going through VHS
Yeah.
alleys in my video stores, trying to find good movies, and was often robbed by by the result because the artwork was so cool.
Yeah.
And you ended up having bad movies, and that was, that's why I winded up wasting more time in video clubs than actually renting the movies, just because I never wanted to be ripped off because I had a small budget. But it turned into this fascination for B movies afterwards as well, and I enjoyed them very much. But all the imagination of thinking about what these movies could be was pretty much at the core of why I enjoy artwork so much, because
Yeah.
it stimulates the mind as to what you're supposed to get given, as a result.
Yeah. Yeah, that reminds me of when I spoke to Panos Cosmatos briefly back in 2018 before the Mandy screening at Fantasia. He's another person who fell in love with VHS covers as a child going through the video stores and wanting to recreate that magic, even if it didn't actually exist in the form of the movie that was on the cassette that went with whatever particular impressive piece of artwork.
I adore Panos Cosmatos movies. I think they're amazing. They're really cool. I actually contacted him for this project, but no reply whatsoever. So I don't know if it's an AI thing or the email didn't go through or whatever. But I would have loved to have his vision into his book.
He's very busy. So I before we run out of time, I want to at least look at a couple of these posters in a bigger view. So we have 18 up here in the gallery. Can you see them, Pat?
Yes, I can.
Which one of these is your favorite that you'd like to talk about?
And those, oh my God, that's like, it's like talking about your babies almost, which is your favorite. But, I tend to enjoy things that are more humorous, So in terms of their content, I mean, Michael Gingold's clown
The
shark.
Clown Shark, yeah.
Yeah.
Michael, is a writer has been a writer for so many years, and he turned out something so hilarious with this one. It's like the best shark PlayStation movie that could ever happen. Actually, I wish this can actually be made because it's so hilarious. And David Alexander as well is a take on a fake sequel to Halloween 3 done in the AIlien Realms with such a crazy ass background. So it's really funny. But of course, also the trio of Heron Moorhead, Justin Benson, and David Lawson created really interesting worlds as well, and interesting, very poetic ways of writing about those movies. They're so talented, so they have very unique vision. So that brought another layer. So those are really interesting. But I mean, each and every one has got something special. Like I could give you almost a mini review of their reviews, but yeah.
Well, this one is actually, I think, the one that caught my eye the most, the clown shark one. So yeah, and I'm glad Gingold wrote that up because I imagine he's probably the biggest movie reviewer in there, and he would have a good take on it.
Yeah, and he happens to be a big shark exploitation fan. He's even in the documentary as well. So that just came out like a few weeks ago.
So grabbing just a few ones at random. This one looks like a Giallo, like something Dario Argento.
Exactly what it is, and it's Alan Jones who did it, and seriously, he made it very funny as well, and also destroyed the movie because it's misleading as well with the concept, and he made it as a Giallo in 1972, from 1972, and it's all set up in this alien world as well, and it's fantastically hilarious. and he's referencing also a bunch of other movies that don't exist with amazing titles as well from the filmography and all. So it's a total hoot. This one, really loved it. I wanted to start the book with a bang, and this is why I chose this one.
Oh, this is the opener. Okay, cool. Let's see, what's another? All of these are interesting looking. Let's just look at this one because it's next in the bunch. This is the only black and white poster in the bunch, and it's got a real Eraserhead looking monster to me.
Yeah, and a spider or something in hand.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it's got everything. It's got a nice cave fantasy backdrop kind of hidden in
and it also
behind.
has to do with chess.
Oh, is that on the coffee
yeah, well,
table
you could speculate as what that table was, but Sheila Rowan Legg, who wrote, took advantage of that aspect to put it into her story.
Just random kind of spheres floating in the air, some of which are connected by strings to the ceiling, and some of which are just free floating around.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm thinking with this monster and chess and the mystery, this is like a really Z-grade horror redo of Seven Seal going on here with a woman squaring off against a new face of death.
A lot of different directions you could go with that. Great looking gorilla monster here, very colorful.
Yeah, Andrew Trocchi did this one, and he played around with the concept of AI as well in his review. It's really interesting.
I'm guessing it's a social satire, judging from the prominent newspaper in the lower right-hand corner, the people masked there with stylized clown makeup and further newspaper going on. So I can definitely see this being an early 80s kind of sticking it to the government, society gone wrong kind of horror film.
This is one of the few ones that looks like it might have a readable title. Sometimes they're just random collections of letters, and sometimes they are letters in a foreign alien alphabet. This one looks like CHIREN.
Yeah, well, sometimes, it depends, because I wanted to play with the idea that the fact that it came from that AIlien Realms per se, because the AI does turn out text that's all jumbled up to begin with, at least at this point in time. I know soon enough we'll be able to type real worlds and it will actually work inside, but it's not yet like this. And I said to myself at the beginning, should I just remove everything and just rewrite new titles for them, and just so that people are not confused? I said, no, I'm going to take advantage of this because it's their own dimension. And also it liberated them to not be having to draw from a real title, so they could improvise more and create their own, also known as, and all our translation about what it is. So I think it became a good thing for this sort of not fluke, but bug, basically.
So you said you let people go wild and do whatever they want. Did anybody write as if the movie was actually something made by aliens?
Well, yes, some of them use it in the AI context. Some of them don't, just review them as movies as they are and don't necessarily include the AI aspect. But some did in beautiful ways as well, because it was part of the concept. That's how it was pitched. But then again, like I said, they could also write it up as just a single review that's just a bizarre movie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, both of those things.
Let me see. This one really a spooky looking. And this one again has an actual.
It's that classic A Minimaze. Come on, Greg. You've seen that.
And I wish I didn't see that. I send you the censored version. I should have sent you the right.
Oh, okay.
I like that.
I made that for Facebook. Obviously, you can see the actual breasts in the book.
I like the censored version. I think it's even weirder to have the I don't know what kind of animals they're, like sheep or chinchillas on the body of topless women, and oh my gosh, it's just, this one's really eye-catching, I think.
Heavy folk horror.
That's what I was from Aaron Moorhead, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see. This one's a little turned out a little more normal almost by comparison. It looks like more like a thriller maybe than a horror
Yeah, I
movie.
thought so, but there's a little bit of mystery if you look at it clearly. Justin Benson wrote this one, but he didn't necessarily took those elements into context exactly the way I would have done it, but that's fine because that was the whole goal.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, there's some dimensional stuff in a way, because if you look at the drapes in the back, they are actually in the mirror area as well as a reflection. And also the fact that the end, the left, well, the hand on the left side just goes out a little bit of the frame as well. So, and if you look at the behind the mirror, you can see the body continues as well. So there's it's more of a sci-fi aspect, maybe I could say, but there's a sort of a reflective horror kind of thing going on there. And then Justin did something completely wild with it as well in terms of the mystery of it all. So it's very intriguing and fascinating view.
With them being sci-fi makers, I think I can see why this image would appeal to them. So great stuff, and it really sort of explores the way that right now, in its imperfect form, AI is very surrealist in what it generates. I mean,
yeah, well, you got to work to get there, it really took me a lot of time actually to get this. It's fast for many reasons, but it all depends on where you want to go with this, actually, like explore all these possibilities, because I wanted it also to try and cover a bunch of eras as well. You've got the black and white, you've got sort of also more different ethnicities as well. If you look at the blue one on the top there, it's more like some sort of retro Czechoslovakian kind of thing, But Helsa Kepart, who used this one, made it her own as well. So
yeah, the bottom
tried to have a lot of variety at the same time, aesthetically speaking, in terms of eras and.
Okay, well, we only have a little more than a minute. So you can go to AIlienRealms.com, type in the name, or go to pattremblay.com and buy this. And just in the last minute, Pat, are you a resident of Montreal?
Yes, I am.
Do you have a restaurant that you can recommend there for next time Giles visits Fantasia?
If do you like Indian food?
Oh yeah.
Because there's a Indian Quarter, I should say, that they have a lot of great Indian restaurant there, and I would have to check. I think it's Maison Curry India. I would have to send you the link because I always forget the name, but they've got. I don't know if you enjoy tikka masala, but they've got the best one ever. I mean, it's an orgy in my mouth, an orgasm.
I'm sold.
Yeah, now I want to go to Montreal. Okay, well, that's our traditional last question, is restaurant recommendations. So thank you so much for being on, Pat, and I really hope that the book does well and you get to make a sequel.
Oh, I'd love to. I'd certainly love to. I thank you very much for your coverage and help towards this.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay, bye-bye.
Out of here.